Hello report creators. In this video we will talk about the data preparation for the drill down timeline pro visual and how to achieve the most from it. Alright, so to start off, let's look at the dataset itself. So in this case, we have a pretty simple example. We have a column with a product name, so that's some categorical information. We have a price, we have quantity, so those are your numerical values. We have a date column, and we have a sales rep. Now, what I wanted to have with this example is also I want to have a little bit of a time dimension. And what I'm going to do is actually just create an hour column. So let's call it an hour, and the way I create it is going to be just a random between. So I'm going to go from, let's say, 8 a.m. till 6 p.m. Let's go for that. Let's extend it. Now, in order for Power BI to easier recognize that it is a time dimension, I'm also going to create another column, which is going to have a concatenated version of these values. So concatenate the hours, then I'm going to add a delimiter. There we go. So that's going to be my column. There we go. Let's add a new one, extend it with 2 zeros. There we go. Add it to all the rows underlined. There we go. So, and those are going to be the primary changes that I made to the Excel file itself. Now let's save it and load it into Power BI desktop itself. So in order to load the data, what we first of all do, of course, is open up a brand new Power BI report. Then we're going to use Excel as a source, find the sample file that you want to load in. There we go. Open it up, give it a little bit of time to load in the data sample. It's not too big, but there's always a little bit of waiting time. All right, now that we have loaded in the data set, we can actually take a quick look at the data for itself. Let's see, we have, like I said, product, price, quantity, sales, sales rep, hours, and time. Now, for this specific example, I actually want to have two different date variations. I want to have a separate column with the date, which I already do have, and then I want to have a combinational column which has the date and the time dimension together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the Power Query, and we can also quickly change the cell DTS into a date format. In this case, I'm actually going to be using locale because I have the dates in US standard. Not this one, this one. There we go. Date, convert. Perfect. Now let's select date and time. Go to add new column. Under date, let's choose combine date and time. There we go. And let's rename this to date/time. So now I have this dimension as well. So whenever I need to use and reference a date and time column, I have something already in my data set that I can use for that. Now let's save the changes and load it into Power BI. There we go. So in this case, if we actually look at the data itself, we can see that Power BI recognizes these as built-in date hierarchies. Now, this is something that might differ from your setup as well, because based on the settings that you have applied for the Power BI file itself, if you go under Options and Settings Options, so right here under Current File, and if you go to Data Load, you can also enable the data and time intelligence, auto detection for it. So if it's enabled, it's going to create the hierarchy. If it's disabled, it's not going to create a hierarchy. For those cases where the hierarchy is not created, you don't have to worry about it because we can actually just build in our own hierarchy based on the date field. So in this case, what we're going to do is just create a couple of new columns based on different DAX formulas in order for us to have those levels of the hierarchy. So first off, let's just create a new column and call it a year. We're actually going to be using year function as well. So year, and based on the original date itself. So let's go here, write in date, find our column, date time column, reference it. There we go. And in the same manner, we're also going to create separate columns for quarters, months, weeks, days, hours, and so forth if necessary. But in order to save time, I'm just going to skip those, and we're going to be ending up with a result where I already have them created. All right, so now that we have created our hierarchy, there's one more thing I want you to take a note of. And that is, if we go to the data view, you need to make sure that the units you create for the month and the day, for example, are in a numerical variation. The reason for that is because the backbone of the timeline visual is a regular calendar, which allows you to provide these numerical values for months and days, and the visual itself does the conversion and renames the values for the representative month or the day or whatever it is the unit that you're going to have there. So you're going to have no issues there whatsoever. Now, once we have created that, there's a few additional things that I want to do. I actually want to create 4 additional measures in order to utilize the power of the drill down timeline pro visual. And the reason why I want to do this is because the visual allows you to customize each series individually. Now, what it allows me to do is actually to create more than 200 different variations of charts in a single visual. And in this case, what I'm going to be doing as a measure is actually going to be something relatively simple. We're going to just be calculating the sum of quantity for each of the product names. So in this case, let's go for, let's say, quantity GPU. And the formula is going to be just to calculate, which is going to return the sum of quantity. There we go. And the filter context is going to be that product name is equal to GPU. And the same logic is going to be applied for the 3 additional measures that I create for CPUs, PSUs, and RAM. So in order to, again, save a little bit of time, I'm just going to skip forward and give you the result when it's ready. All right, now that we're done with the data preparation, let's create some simple examples of the timeline visual. So the first one is going to be with a built-in hierarchy. So let's add in a visual right here. And for this, let's use the date and time dimension that's already pre-built. So just drag the hierarchy right here in the date hierarchy field. Then you need to add the date value on x-axis, just add in the same one, and add the measures for the series since those are your individual values that you're plotting on the visual. In this case, I'm just going to be adding 2 of those, and you can see, simple as that, we created the timeline visual, which allows me to drill down into the hierarchy levels that I have previously defined here in the hierarchy field. I can also choose, for example, custom time units, drill into those, and explore the chart even further on. Switch the time units right here without drill down, so you have a lot of different options here. All right, so that one was created with the built-in hierarchy that Power BI already generated for us. So let's quickly reset the visual and create another example right below it with a custom hierarchy. So again, let's add a new instance of the timeline visual right here. And for the hierarchy levels, instead of just dragging in the full hierarchy, we're going to be creating and combining it the way we want to. So in this case, I actually want to go with years as the first layer. Then after years, I don't want to have quarters. I want to go straight to months. Then after months, I want to see a weekly view. From weeks, I want to switch down to days. And then as the last level, I also want to have the hour unit. There we go. As for the date, I'm going to use the date and time dimension. And the reason for that is because I want to have both of them. Since in this hierarchy, I have date and time components. Now, for the visual itself, let's just add in the quantity CPU and PSU, for example. Again, you can see similar setup, but the difference here is going to be that we also have the time granularity. So if I drill down, let's say into 2021, July, let's go into one specific week. There we go. We have different days. Let's go for the 14th, drill down, and you also have the time component. So the depth defines how many levels you have here in the hierarchy field. Now, like I said, one of the capabilities of the visual is to combine and customize these series individually. So I'm just going to quickly remove this visual and work on this one. So if we go into the formatting options, you can see here we have series defaults or individual series. Now, if I enable series defaults, you can customize all of them together. So very simple to be used. If you want to start to customize each and every one of them, make sure you open up the series X configuration, enable customize the series, and then again, you're in full control over how these things are going to be customized for your preferences. All right, that's going to be it for this video. If you want to learn about the capabilities of the timeline visual, make sure to watch this video right here. Other than that, thanks for watching and happy reporting.